Welcome to the Intrazone Roadmap Pit Stop January 2023 edition. This is a bonus monthly show in this gallant era of 2023 that answers that burning question in your mind. What's rolling out now for SharePoint and related technology in Microsoft 365? I'm Mark Cashman, Senior Product Manager at Microsoft, here to help set the ongoing record straight. This month, I talk with Bill Bär, Senior Product Manager on the Microsoft 365 Content AI team, and he focuses on Microsoft Search, Microsoft Syntex, and a whole lot of AI in use today, and certainly planning for those things that are coming soon as well. Bill shares insights into the design and value of Microsoft Feed, which is a smart aggregate of all sorts of things that are happening around you. Content, people, video, reminders, actionable tasks, and more. And it's coming closer to you than you might think into Outlook and the Office mobile apps. Beyond the breadth of what's feeding the Microsoft Feed, besides Bill and his peers feeding the feed, we're going to focus on everything that landed this month, a few related items, and the always fun teasers looking into next month. This podcast is your 30-minute roadmap to get a peek behind the scenes and stay ahead of the ever-curving Microsoft 365 roadmap. It is time to get informed about all the tech that rolled out in January 2023. As always, we start with employee engagement. You want to get the word out, not just to your peers, your manager, but to everybody in your company. Then there are always a ton of features and updates that we're working on to make sure that your internal communications can be as broad and as effective as they need to be. And the first one is really where we started, talking about the Microsoft Feed. This is a pretty huge innovation across multiple teams. And we're certainly going to get into it when we talk with Bill. But the 101 of the Microsoft Feed is that it provides users with a mix of relevant content from across Microsoft 365 that helps you discover and learn about people and interests that are relevant to your work. The feed is personal, which means it's personalized to you and shows you content based on what's likely to be most relevant at that time to you, the current user logged in, signed into your instance of Microsoft 365 from multiple locations, multiple devices. We'll talk about that. But like a good 1980s television cliffhanger, we're going to put a pin on it until next week or until just a few minutes when we talk with Bill. So he's our subject matter, and it's this feature that we're going to go deeper on this month to highlight both its value and uncover a little bit about how it works and the design focus in planning and, of course, to bring it to market. So let's put that cliffhanger pin in together. Ready? 1, 2, 3, pin. Next, let us talk about planner integration that is now coming to Microsoft Viva Goals / it's here. It's time to connect your Viva Goals projects and key results to Microsoft Planner. This allows you to view your team's tasks and update the relevant objective and key results, those OKRs, in Viva Goals. And as you update and complete your day-to-day plans and tasks in Planner, everything gets updated and helps you show progress in Microsoft Viva Goals automatically. Now, there's a lot of information to learn more about how and what this accomplishes, but I encourage you, and I'll have these links in the show notes, to check out 2 articles. And I put them here because I think they're pretty self-explanatory, especially if you want to learn how this stuff works. The first one is Make Your Goals a Reality with OKRs and New Capabilities for Microsoft Viva Goals. That's a summary of a lot of the innovation that's coming to Goals, including what the planner team and the project team are working on. And this month is what's coming for Planner. The other article is 4 goal-setting trends for 2023 and how Microsoft Viva Goals can help. A little bit more of a broader view of how you might be coming up to speed on what OKRs are, or the value of just having everybody at the individual team and organizational level have that flying in the same direction awareness of different goals. So again, I'll have the link in the companion post in the SharePoint community blog. The main goal, make a plan, set your tasks, and relate them all to goals, and align on progress and transparency between the two for greater visibility and fewer disconnects from forgetting to update in multiple locations. One complements the other, and you get credit for a well-tracked, meaningful objective, or if you have many, which we encourage, objectives. So this just keeps everything a little bit more aligned and a little bit more automated. Next is a feature within the OneDrive Android app where you can extract PDFs and basically take one PDF and create multiple PDFs out of it if you want to rearrange or just only include certain pages. This is one of those features that does have a reliance on you having a license for Microsoft Syntex, but I wanted to note it here because it's pretty innovative and it's very helpful if you work with PDFs a lot, but you don't always want to send that one giant PDF. You want to send a subset of pages. Now, I will encourage you to try this, but also in understanding what it is, you might think this is good for us to audibly visualize that viral video game of the past. Yes, I know you know the one that I'm thinking of, Fruit Ninja. Imagine a flying apple or an orange, and out comes that giant watermelon. That's right, users of OneDrive for Android can now get their Fruit Ninja on. You can now split PDFs just like Fruit and have tiny little PDFs saved back to OneDrive. Again, the caveat is this feature is available for licensed Syntex users in OneDrive in Microsoft 365. And if that's you, then the value speaks to the future, encapsulating all of the Syntex value plus now this new feature. And the real quick of how this works, you open up a PDF file in OneDrive for Android. Click on the horizontal bar at the bottom, which brings up the expansion menu. You tap Extract, select the pages that you want. Let's say there are 50 total and you want just 10. You can then highlight those 10, choose where you want to save that new PDF back to, and you're done. So once you're done slicing and dicing those PDFs, let's put the Fruit Ninja sword down and grab some time with my friend and peer, Bill Bär, to learn all the goodness that Microsoft Feed brings you and the special sauce behind what makes it tick. Alrighty, it is time to now feed your brain, feed your head with more information. And this one is not just feeding your brain, it's feeding your brain about the Microsoft feed. So with so much feeding, I think the next person, the best person to feed your brain about Microsoft feed is my peer, Bill Bär. Bill, welcome to the Intrazone.
Thank you, Mark. Happy to be here. And indeed, Feed Your Head, the refrain of White Rabbit, written by Grace Slick.
Oh, nice. So if the rabbit hole that we're about to enter into to expose the light and share everything that is coming to market with what you're working on, before we get into the specific feature Microsoft Feed, what else are you working on these days, just to round out the who is Bill these days for the audience?
Indeed. So I predominantly focus on Microsoft Search and Microsoft Syntex, but I have responsibility as well to a variety of different products that we bring to market through MSAI or Microsoft Search Assistant and Intelligence at Microsoft, one of those being the Microsoft Feed.
So you're kind of half AI. I assume I'm just talking to the Bill bot right now.
Yeah, the other half, the chat bot.
So let's take some of that AI and kind of weave it into what is this thing, the Microsoft Feed. Can we just start with the 101 of what is it? And then we'll get maybe into the history of how we got here.
Yeah, if I had to summarize the Microsoft Feed and try to be as clear and concise as possible, be brief, be bright, be gone. The goal of the feed was really to help create an engaging experience that helps Microsoft 365 users feel more connected and up to date with people and interests and content that's most important to them. So it's really kind of just-in-time information to really help you stay on top of the flow of data and meetings and objects from across the organization.
And it takes a lot of the same concerns away in terms of privacy. It takes a lot of the relevancy because it's tapped into the graph and, providing you access to a lot of things, content, people, task-oriented or actionable things. I know there's a history behind it, and maybe that's where we can start to dig through also what is the tech behind it. So, where were we before the feed and kind of what got us here?
Yeah, before the feed, one of the challenges that we had was not only are there a variety of feeds that exist across Microsoft 365, the Microsoft feed itself can be thought of as a superset of feeds, But historically, where we found challenges or where people have expressed challenges is this disconnected and siloed information. So it's basically, it boils down to there's just more data, more places, which ultimately means more fragmentation and this lack of convergence. So examples of which could be you have Outlook, you have Teams, you have Office, OneDrive, SharePoint, Teams channels, To Do, LinkedIn, Git, Delve, Viva, Stream. So, that list continues to grow exponentially. The data that's in those lists grows exponentially. And the way that you consume and work with that data, is different across those apps and services. So really, there needs to be a way to help kind of rationalize all of that information. So we asked ourselves, how do we experience information sharing across these different apps, and do we have a strategy on how to help people, within Microsoft make sense of what tools to use when and how to stay informed of what's happening without having to continuously context switch. When you're context switching, you're losing context. And I'm going to say that word about 30 times in the course of this segment. But context switching means you're losing focus, but it also means that you're not seeing information in context. So, if you kind of think about the history or the origin story for the Microsoft feed, we have to think about it being, centered around that fragmentation and as a mechanism to address it, because we know that things don't just manifest itself, right? A PowerPoint presentation won't manifest itself. It's usually the byproduct of a bunch of other work streams, whether that's a Teams chat, a meeting, a email exchange, even some serendipitous human encounter, but information doesn't manifest itself. There's a chain of actions that are tied to that piece of information. So the feed was really designed to help rationalize that and, put information into context and deliver it, when and where you need it.
My personal use of it was the great aggregator. It was smart and aware of who I was, what I was working on. I think it's gotten a lot more performant in terms of being really relevant. Like I just did that and there it is in the feed, but also being aware of where I've been and who I've worked with and bringing in a lot of that content. I did, to be frank, always love if I went to a specific app for a purpose, I could see a really distinct, flow of just those, that content type or just that thing that I was looking for. But more and more being able to slice and dice and filter and know that it is aggregating across multiple apps and services. What you enumerated through is probably still just a short list of everything the feed is connected to. And that's the part that I wanted to kind of drill into is first, just so people are extremely aware, where do I go to access or see the feed? Like maybe there's one perfect place to go, or the feed is feeding multiple places because it's a great aggregator to put in, some of these main entry points. But just that, where do people go to see the feed so they can see it now that it's starting to roll out?
Today, the feed is generally available in both Outlook Mobile and Office Mobile. Those are the two primary locations where you can take advantage of the feed. And again, as I mentioned, really what the feed was designed to do is first address that core challenge, which is this, disconnected and siloed information. And that's kind of where you explained your own use case scenario, because that particular challenge boils down to like lost objects, files that were shared in a Teams chat, that sometimes, over the course of time, atrophy occurs. And those files just are sitting there and they're waiting for you. But how do you know, or how do you recall that, you need that object? Or there's cases where you may have said something to invoke a queue in the feed. So maybe in an email exchange, you sent an email to Megan Bowen that said, let's stick together for a sync on Thursday. So the feed can remind you of things you've said, files that were shared with you in Teams chats. And then the kind of second component to that challenge is that stay informed, who's away, the ability to read an OOF and let you know who's away, or keep up with close collaborators, the people that matter most to you, within your organization. So those two candidate endpoints Office Mobile and Outlook.com were really good for that particular type of scenario. And then I think secondarily, we also have that second challenge of hybrid work and the weakening of ties. And what we've come to find as we started to design the feed is that remote work has resulted in denser connections like within groups, right? And then weaker connections across groups. So those kind of effects make it harder and harder for employees to like acquire and share new information, across their network, just because of the way those bonds are, vastly different from within and outside of groups. And that's kind of, the hybrid work crux. So, the mobile apps are really good candidates where you can take advantage of it today. And again, that's Outlook Mobile and Office Mobile.
I'm just going to guess on behalf of the audience, when you hear of Outlook Mobile, I think I'm going to go see a feed of my recent emails that are for somehow delegated as important for some, magic algorithm on the back end, where in fact it's not just about meetings and Outlook email. It's what you described. It's really tracking what you're saying and who you're chatting with, and trying to prompt you with the right prompts. But then there's content, there's videos, there's documents, there's tasks, there's actionable things that, proactively admins can kind of build into the feed for the right reason at the right time of year. And it's really amazing to see both the Outlook Mobile flexibility there to orient around that as a key part of their UI going forward. But also I think important that you mentioned two, not just one, because the feed is intended to be a singular entity, but consumed in multiple ways. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the patterns of the feed also reflect a lot of how we've designed the apps and services, so that if I go to Office in the backstage, what I'm seeing reflects how the feed works. It may be specific more to a PowerPoint or a Word document. Or if I go to Microsoft365.com, formerly Office.com, and I see that recent flow of things that I've done, touched, or were sent to me, it's that same feed, same active feed, relevant and pervasive across what it is that I'm doing or who or what it is that I'm interacting with. And I think that's really important. But to the point of where you answered and where you kind of pointed people to, both of those instances are really good. The Office app is not just for Office documents anymore when it comes to discovery. And Outlook Mobile is not just a discovery or a search mechanism for just email and calendar.
Indeed. And I think, the important components of it are one, it keeps you up to date, with your closest collaborators, but it keeps you effectively your network, but also, it keeps you up to date with trending information, that may be important to you. It keeps you up to date on commitments that you've made, and, putting it in those two places is really good. But you touched upon, a very key point as well, which is it's a superset of feeds. So the ultimate goal is coherence. So now you have both context, so you're seeing information contextually, but you also have coherence across these apps and services. So the feed is really that just-in-time information feed that's meeting you where you're at. And a big decision surrounding that was, based on kind of that third challenge. So we kind of looked at three different scenarios, and that's this idea that there's just this influx of data. And we've probably all seen it, right? This exponential growth of like digital chat, documents, media, meetings. So it's becoming harder to stay on top of what's important. So we're able to, incorporate into the feed things like meeting catch-up, where you can quickly jump to where your name was mentioned in a meeting, or at mentions and transcripts from meetings for ease of catch-up. And then document updates as well, like relevant information about editors and your connection to them, live previews of updates that were made to a file, links to a file, or Viva topic with information discovery. So you have kind of all of these different things that are all kind of, I would almost, say, the feed is your social co-pilot. It helps you make new connections, and then it helps you stay connected, with existing connections. And those connections are the origin story behind content, because again, it doesn't just manifest itself. The connection is super important, strengthening those ties and building connections, because it's people who create information. So it's really powerful in that it can provide all of those different scenarios, and you can consume it in so many different ways and places.
I like the concept of the Copilot. I do think it is a feed that is worth sitting by and learning from, and whether it's guiding you or you're guiding it, based on the activities and people that you work with, it is, again, not just a feed that you might turn to for one particular document type or action. It really is there to, provide you with as best visibility into your day-to-day activities, what you need to do, reminders, and, access, beyond your smaller circle of influence to encourage you to work with others or to at least stay connected. I think that was really well put. We want to get you back to your feed. What is next on your feed? I appreciate that you took the time to share a little bit about the Microsoft feed on the Intrazone.
Yeah, and actually what's on my feed is over the next few weeks, you'll see the feed come to the Edge new tab page, and you'll also see it come to office.com. So, kind of, a roadmap-y ending to the discussion, but what you'll see is you'll start to see the feed manifest itself across apps and endpoints in Microsoft 365 over time. So, wherever your favorite place to work is, you'll have your social co-pilot right there working with you. So really cool stuff and incredibly helpful. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with the feed, I encourage you to check out the feed in Outlook Mobile or the Microsoft 365 app, and visit our Search and Intelligence blog, where you will continue to find updates on what we're doing with the feed.
Perfect. I will have those links and more information in the show notes. And again, Bill, thanks for your time.
Absolutely. I am going to return to feeding my brain.
I always cherish the time to be able to talk to Bill. He has so much depth and history in all things of SharePoint, especially those things that have spawned from SharePoint. Most recently, a lot of what we're doing with feeds like Microsoft Feed, and of course the work around Microsoft Syntex. So I hope you enjoyed that. It's always great to hear what he knows, and he also puts a nice little visualize, how to understand technology, especially some of the complexities behind that make it work. And with that, let us now turn to teamwork. When you're working one-to-one with a peer or just within your team getting something ready before you distribute it broadly or publicly, there's always a lot of features and functionality within a lot of different tools and apps, SharePoint and related technology, to help you get that work done. All right, let us get into the first item of teamwork. Microsoft Lists now has Calendar Week View. While creating a calendar view, you can now choose between letting it look like a month or a week and visualize the information to your preference, whatever works best for your items. And of course, you can have multiple views, a month view, a week view, and the layout support all the same features, the ability to drag and drop items from day to day, different hours, or to have them visualized with conditional formatting using some of the color coding on the canvas itself. It's very simple. You can create a new view, choose calendar, and then you'll see now two choices, month or week. And again, switching between the two is something that is a default experience. Or you can manually create two distinct calendars, and you can, of course, change the properties of what shows, how they're represented, all the things that you can do to create a new view. It's just a common ask that we've been getting to move from the broader 30 to 31 days of a calendar down into, the 7 or 5 days of a week. The next item, Microsoft Teams now has the @everyone mention capabilities. And I mention it here because it's really nice when you have some new part of a chat and you want to highlight and notify everybody that you can do that. Similar to how you can mention individuals in a chat, you will now have the option to type in @everyone with the options for when you typing in the mentions. After typing you'll see the same people results that you see today, but a new option, quote, "everyone" will be available. By selecting everyone and sending the message, a notification will be sent to all users in the group chat based on their selected notification settings. In group chats, just to note, with more than 50 users, we will alert the sender that their message will be notifying a large number of users, just so that if you're going to kind of fall into the pitfalls of the old reply all, which certainly has its good intent with the right scenario, we want to raise the visibility just to let you know, hey, At everyone is a lot of people, but hopefully to the value. That's the point. You didn't have to @mention every single person in the chat. You just @mention everyone. All right, let us move to related technology. The first item is really just information I wanted to share. It highlights a lot of the work that we've been doing to make search better, especially as both you as a customer or a partner or somebody who is thinking about the industry broadly thinks about search in the future. What does it mean to do search right? Microsoft was named a leader in the 2022 Gartner Magic Quadrant for insights engines. And these insight engines, if you read the what does that mean? In this new world of hybrid work, insight engines are the digital water cooler or the gateway of information. And Microsoft has now been named a leader in this quadrant, which means up and to the right, both in innovation of product and also vision into the future. According to the report, Gartner defines insight engines as the ability to apply relevancy methods to describe, discover, organize, and analyze data. This allows existing or synthesized information to be delivered proactively or interactively and in the context of the digital workers, customers, or constituents at a timely business moment, which I always translate as when you need it. And Microsoft delivers two integrated solutions that address customers in this broad insight engine's needs. One, Microsoft Search, available to customers of Microsoft 365, and Azure Cognitive Search, available as a platform as a service with Microsoft Azure. Whether you're already a customer of Microsoft 365 or you're a professional developer or data scientist, we hope that you can use Microsoft Search and Azure Cognitive Search services to build impactful AI-powered search solutions that solve complex problems and enhance customer experience. I will absolutely put the graphic if you're familiar with the Gartner quadrants, and you can see where Microsoft placed. There's also a great blog that drills down into a little bit more detail about the report itself, where you can go to review the full report, and of course a little bit behind where you can learn more about Azure Cognitive Search and learn more about Microsoft Search, both of which very strong in their category, and this is a nice proof point to highlight, especially if you track and follow the Gartner results. We're very pleased to have done well. Next, I want to highlight an on-demand video, and I want to highlight this one because it was a really great panel discussion from the European SharePoint conference. This was in 2022 at the tail end, and it has a conversation with Jeff Tieper and Susie Dean from Add-in 365, also talking with Richard Gifford, who's a CIO of Ordnance Survey, and Andrea Alani. She's a PM at Agri UK, all subject matter experts. And in this context, all subject matter experts talking about Microsoft Viva, what we maybe have announced recently, the implementation of both with the customer that they talked to and the partner that helped them implement it, and the value of the broader offerings that Add-in 365 offers. It's a really great casual discussion with Jeff. It's on site at the expo hall, so you get a sense of what the conference looked like, and it was a really well shot, easy to hear. It's a very nice audio recording. And so I'll put a link in the show notes if you want to learn more about real-world adoption and insights about Microsoft Viva. I highly encourage it as good time spent listening to both how we approach it and, of course, how our customers implement it and now consume and use it. Now, this last related item is a key heads-up reminder. This is about the Stream Classic retirement. Stream Classic, again, the difference between Stream Classic and what we now call Stream on SharePoint, really just the future direction of what we're doing, and that there are some caveats to the older system as we move everybody to the newer system. So the date is February 15th, 2024. That's the one to remember. And Microsoft will retire Stream Classic on that date, February 15th, 2024. And as a part of the retirement process, certain parts of the service will retire sooner unless you take action. People will be blocked from uploading new videos on May 15th, 2023, and will not be able to access Stream Classic at all after October 15th, 2023, unless you delay these changes by using the new migration settings in Stream Classic Admin Center. These new migration settings will become available to you in February. So not an action right now, but certainly awareness campaign that we're trying to push here to raise awareness of what's happening in Stream. Just to be real clear, the Stream Classic successor service, as I mentioned, is Stream on SharePoint, which gives you all the beauty and the value of SharePoint as the backend system, and they're doing a ton of work on SharePoint, the storage mechanism, to stream those videos in a performant and accessible way with a lot of the new features you've been seeing the team talk about. That was now at general availability since October 2022, and the team is recommending that you begin using Stream on SharePoint, direct your users to upload videos into SharePoint, Teams, OneDrive, and Yammer, which are all these new entry points to get into Stream on SharePoint, SharePoint being the common platform between them all from a video perspective in this case, and put a plan in place for migration should you need to move from Stream Classic to Stream on SharePoint. Great documentation of the full retirement plan, and there's also a good overview doc of the new Stream and what it means to move from Classic to on SharePoint. So the key date, February 15th, 2024, lots to review and consider, but also know that if it's something that certainly is just a no-brainer, that there's a lot of people and resources to help you get there. Let's move on from retirement to premonition, predicting with high certainty that which is just around the corner of our calendars. Here are 2 teasers for what's coming in February 2023. Teaser number 1, this one started in OneDrive. Now, external file request in SharePoint document libraries is coming your way. Teaser number 2, throw out your mixtapes. Microsoft Stream on SharePoint will enable create, view, and share playlists. I think you're going to love this integration between Microsoft Lists, Stream, and SharePoint on the back end to make it all happen. Super easy feature to use. Can't wait for you to learn more and do it yourself. That is it with this month's Peek Ahead. We'll share more details and other updates within the SharePoint Roadmap Pit Stop February 2023 edition next month. We've added learn more links per feature, plus a list of important resources in the show notes and in the corresponding blog post on the Microsoft Tech community, which we publish to the SharePoint community blog. I hope you've enjoyed this roadmap pit stop. Pump the brakes, sheath your samurai sword, shing shing! It's time to relax knowing you're all caught up. Please send us your thoughts and comments to theinterzone@microsoft.com. We're here to put our and your best change management foot forward. Thanks for taking that step with us into the cloud month after month. This is Mark Cashman saying ching ching shush. See you next time, next month on the Roadmap Ahead.